Hi guys, welcome to a live with Local X. We're going to be joining shortly. We just had a few technical issues getting started, but if you could drop us a like, comment, share, let us know that you can see the slide there. Today is a conversation with Anna and I on community and talking a little bit about the new community that we've set up. So if you are there, let us know that you're there. If you're watching on Facebook in our group, give us a hi. We'll be starting very shortly. Okay, let's get started. Um, Hi everyone. Welcome back to a live on my profile, and for you guys that are in our Community Connectors Facebook group. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Anna, who, even though I'm introducing us, it's because I have live on LinkedIn. But I'm going to bring her on screen now because this is the two of us. So, oh, let's see. Why is that not working? Uh, Oh dear, where's Anna gone?
I'm still here.
That would be helpful.
I'm definitely still
One
here.
second. Why can't I see you?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us. Sure. Thanks for joining us, guys. We wanted to kick off what we're going to share with you, which is a live series with a conversation between Alex and I. And really just we've shared a little bit in text in the news feed about what we want to do with our, with LocalX, with the community connectors group that we're building on Facebook, and also this live series that we are going to kick off. So today we will be Alex and I. And it's going to change a little bit every week, and we're going to have lots of guests, but we'll share more about that as we get going. And the lovely Alex is sorting out some technical stuff right now, but thanks for joining us. It's probably worth, for those that haven't heard of LinkedIn Local, and I am aware, particularly those watching in the Community Connectors group in Facebook, you may have heard about it, but perhaps don't know the story about it. Jump in, Alex, if you need, if you're back
We're
on,
back.
ready.
I've managed. We are both of us on screen now. Thanks, guys, for
Wonderful.
your patience. I do love a bit of a technical glitch on a live.
And I can't see what you see at all, everyone. So, yeah, love it. Anyway, so as I was saying, LinkedIn Local, because I particularly, if you're watching on the LinkedIn Local page, you're aware of LinkedIn Local, but for a lot of people in our Community Connectors group, it's not a group for LinkedIn Local specifically. It's for anybody who's involved in community building, is interested in communities, is interested in human connection. So it's probably worth giving a little bit of background of what LinkedIn Local is and how Alex and I met. Coming on Tuesday, which will be the 2nd of June, will be the 3-year anniversary of the very first LinkedIn Local event, which was held in Coffs Harbour in Australia, all on a bit of a whim. A few weeks before that, so roughly 3 years ago, Alex and I met on LinkedIn. We'd connected recently. I put up a post about LinkedIn Local. Alex, who was in London at the time, Eric Eklund in Brussels, and Swish Goswami, who was in, Toronto at the time and about to move to New York, saw the post, went, fantastic, I'm going to set this up in my own city. And from that point on, we had a global movement within about 2 hours of the first LinkedIn Local post. The hashtag LinkedIn Local was a complete afterthought, and it was not my intention to create any more than a local meetup. We were 4 countries within a few hours. Within a few months, we were at about, I think by December 2017, we were at 30 countries. By the year mark, we were at about 52 countries. And by the 2-year mark, we were at 96 countries. We don't count those anymore. So Alex and I were very heavily involved with so many others who are in our group and know this story in mentoring and building this amazing host community. It wasn't something we were able to sustain, nor was it really in fitting with, using the LinkedIn name with what we were doing. So we were managing and really feeding a host community, and it was thriving, and all these hosts were hosting offline events. And for me personally, I was so driven to do this, having not intended to start it. I was completely and utterly driven to do it. And I'll let you share a little bit more about your drive, Alex, and I'll come back to me because I'm aware now that you're back, I can probably stop talking shortly. But what we did notice was we stopped feeding that community. But we didn't really want to. We both went through a bit of a period of grief, having lost that online family. And I certainly know I was so driven by the stories and the connection, not just about LinkedIn Local, but others that were building communities. And so that's where the idea for the community connectors came along, and ultimately what's driving this live series. Alex, I'll let you dive in and talk more about what your side of things.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I got in touch with Anna, which, is, oh God, already 3 years ago, I was going to these networking events where, as an introvert, and this was a conversation we had recently in our Facebook group, both of us being introverts, we were struggling to find places that felt comfortable, that felt like something that we wanted to be a part of. And a lot of kind of business entrepreneurial related networking events or communities were very much kind of pitch heavy, sales heavy, networking heavy, and it was much less on really getting to know people on a deeper level, on a more personal level. And I guess the other thing was, I just started recently running my own business, and I really struggled with the idea of being, even though I was an introvert, of being alone a lot of the time. And so, when I saw Anna's post, for me, it resonated a lot with, okay, that's something similar that I was doing in terms of meeting my connections offline for a coffee. It sort of seemed like the natural evolution of taking what I was doing into something bigger. And I mean, boy, did we underestimate or had no idea what it would turn into. And, it became a very large part of our lives. It was an initiative that we grew and we nurtured, and we dedicated hours and hours of our time for free. Always, we never got paid a dime on anything LinkedIn Local related, and we just poured our hearts into it. And so, that, as Anna was saying, that departure of kind of letting it go was very much a grieving process. And I remember getting on a call with someone at LinkedIn that asked me about, me using the live events feature, the LinkedIn events feature. And I said, do you know what? Don't ask me this right now, because I feel like it's very much a tender wound still. And, I think both of us needed the time to take a step back, think about what we were doing in our careers anyway, or in our businesses, and then realize actually it's something that we miss a huge amount. We missed the host community, we missed the relationships we built with the people that attended. Anna still runs hers. I decided to step away from running mine in London. And, the more we talked about it, the more we realized actually there's still an opportunity there to create community and create connection that was always the thing that drove Anna and I and the rest of the team. So when we got talking, we started talking, okay, well, what ways that we can do that? And one of those conversations was creating a community for community connectors, for people that are interested in growing, nurturing, and scaling communities. And funnily enough, at the time that, you know, all of this sort of came about was in this pandemic where community is so important right now, and people need that sense of belonging, that sense of community, and, you know, coming together as people. So I guess that's really the driver behind why we set up the Facebook group, which right now I'm super excited, or we both are, that we've got 300 members in that community already. And obviously there's the link down below if you fancy joining. But, you know, for us, it's been amazing to kind of reconnect with all of our hosts again, slowly kind of getting them in the group. But I think what Anna was saying is important to note, that it's not specific to a LinkedIn local host. It just happens to be that we're obviously connected with a lot of LinkedIn hosts that still host LinkedIn locals. But we're seeing now a lot more people that generally run communities non-LinkedIn local related. So it's really about, how can we bring those people together? How do we share resources? That worked really well with when we had the LinkedIn community of people sharing ideas and resources and contacts and you know, knowledge around sponsorship and all sorts of things. So it was really kind of creating a place where we could bring that back and just facilitate that and manage that. And help people grow in what it is that they're doing in their community journeys.
Absolutely, and I think we are all facing some pretty uncertain times, not just from a mental health perspective, which is something which Alex and I both have a very special interest in, and it's one of the key drivers for communities behind us. But that's one challenge. But the other challenge is also a lot of it's in the events industry, and things like conferences. When are they going to start? Who knows? What the industry is facing, people need to come together and start having those very real conversations about. And the great thing about having those conversations in our network is that it is it's truly global. So I think already in the group we have over 50 countries represented, and it's really great to see, because certain countries are going to open up at different times. There's going to be a lot of test cases. There's going to be a lot of this is what's now working in, say, Australia and New Zealand, who are probably going to come out of the pandemic earlier, at least as it's looking at this stage. Who knows what's going to happen? But certainly there's going to be things starting to happen in other countries that others can learn from. And that's what this group is really about. It's creating a forum for those conversations, for those questions, that safe space for people to say, look, I'm struggling to get engagement in my group, or, you know, how can I get more support from sponsors? Who's got some advice on those types of things? And I think that safe space for questions is the place that, you know, the space that we want to create online.
Mm. So I guess we should probably go on to, and if you guys have any questions for us, because we'll do a Q&A part of this after, in relation to anything community or LinkedIn local, that sort of stuff, then do ask us. So what can you expect from being a part of that community? And Anna's already mentioned a bit of that already. One of the things that we've been doing is a newsletter on community. This is something that Anna and I talked about as one of the first sort of initiatives that we wanted to create for that community around resources. So in it, we share stuff around human connection, so things that we're seeing around the world around community that create connection and human connection, and the importance of that, tying it in again back to mental health and belonging and loneliness. Which is something that kept coming up for Anna and I a lot, in why this was important to us. We also look at marketing strategies, so things that we're doing or we have done with the experience of LinkedIn Local, around how do you build, nurture, scale communities. What else do we have, Anna, off the top of my mind?
We've got some
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say some education tools in there as well, and community case studies, which is where this live series actually comes in, because Alex and I don't intend to interview each other every week and talk to you. We intend to interview other people. So we're going to take on alternate weeks so that you get a weekly live session with an expert. Well, perhaps not an expert, perhaps a community leader or somebody who has some expertise in a field related to community.
Yeah, so every week we're going to be going live, like Anna said. So 1 week it'll be me, 1 week it'll be Anna, where we're going to be interviewing other people. So I will continue to share that on my live when I'm hosting them. To be able to access all of them again, that will be in our Facebook group where people are in there and having conversations. I'm seeing all of you guys watching this. Michelle, Kelly, Beth, thanks for joining, Anna. So yeah,
I should probably mention that I actually don't have LinkedIn Live yet, which is kind of a little bit of a shame that I'm starting a live series without the LinkedIn Live feature. I have tried to get it, but alas, have not been approved. So if you want my interviews, you will actually need to come to Facebook, unless I can figure out a way around that. So, or YouTube Live, which is where we will also be broadcasting those interviews. So until I get approved for LinkedIn Live, I actually can't broadcast my interviews, which is a shame because I've got some pretty special ones coming. So come join the group.
Hopefully we'll be able to get you on live. So what else is coming up? So Anna and I, in the longer run, where we see ourselves going with this whole community is obviously continuing to nurture and add value. But a lot of people in the process of us doing LinkedIn Local came to us and kept on saying, how do I do what you do for my business? Or how do I do what you do for my initiative or my charity, etc.? So we've been in the background sort of starting to think about, okay, and this has been ongoing for quite a while, of thinking about, why did LinkedIn Local work so well? Why did it catch this momentum and snowballed into such a big movement? And so we sat down and we started breaking down this sort of model. We call it the capes model. And if you can tell, we have a bit of a superhero capes theme in our branding. You can see down there. And thinking about, okay, how do we teach people how we did what we did for their own thing? And we did see a few LinkedIn Local hosts, after we step away, rebrand their LinkedIn Local to their own thing or their own event or their own business. And so really thinking about, how do we help people do their own thing, and also how do they grow it, scale it, nurture it? A lot of questions right now around, how do you take them virtual? How do you facilitate virtually? So both of us have a lot of experience in that. And what we're doing is building out resources and also building out a course that we can take people through that will help them in terms of at different stages. So courses for people that are starting right from scratch, and then courses that are going to help people that have their communities but are looking to expand it globally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's going to be we're going to put a lot of resources on the newsletter, a lot of resources into those courses. And I know from my own perspective, for me, these live interviews and these educational components have come from it's come from the desire of other people to really want help. I think it's probably one thing that a lot of people perhaps don't know about LinkedIn Local was we never intended to provide the support that we did. We never said that at the outset. We did it because there was a genuine need for it. And particularly at the moment, there is really a genuine need for for people to get, help and assistance, either, through courses or even just watching the live interviews, to get that help and support, listening to other community leaders talk about, the groups that they've built, how they drive online engagement, as well as us being able to educate and provide a model for those that are looking to do it a bit more formally. So it really is about that, our hashtag, creating connection, and really educating others to create that connection and understand what that connection is. I have spent 3 years pretty much reading nearly every text or business book on human connection, and it's a subject that just fascinates me. So I'm really excited to get going with these live interviews. Next week, I can't tell you the time yet, and it probably is worth mentioning. There's no set time for these lives because they're experts from all over the world, and because our group is global. Sometimes they might be like this at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. in Australia. Other times it might be in the middle of the night in the UK. It's to do with the expert, and it's to do with both Alex and my time zone as well. So they will all be available for rewatching at any time. But next week, and I can't tell you the date yet because her and I haven't figured it out, but I'm going to be having a chat with Lila Smith. Most of you, at least on LinkedIn, if you're watching, will know Lila. And I'm going to talk to Lila about values, because Lila really, really understands values. She understands not only personal values, but community values. And in addition to that, we're going to chat about how to actually communicate those values. That's going to be so beneficial for anybody who's looking to create content to attract new people to their community. Values have been one of the things that really drove the growth of LinkedIn Local in its first 2 years. And so I think it was one of the subjects I really wanted to touch on first, was to go into those values, or just how to choose your values for your own community, and then how to communicate that so you get the right people involved and you get that community thriving. But look out for the group. I will also be posting, whilst I can't go live on LinkedIn, I will be posting details of the events, and know what time and when to get them. And we'll probably, we're going to do them on YouTube Live as well. And I'll look at other channels. At the moment, it just can't be LinkedIn, but hopefully that will change soon.
Yeah, so we are coming up to about half an hour. And I guess now is time to sort of take any questions that you guys might have on, if you've got anything on community related, if you've got any questions on the actual group or the newsletter that we've launched or the courses that we're planning, feel free to ask any questions. I'm tracking that we are in several places, streaming in several places on LinkedIn.
Whilst you're checking that, it's probably worth mentioning, if you have a community that you admire, that you'd like us to interview, let us know. If you're an expert in that area, I know I'm talking to one expert on human connection right now. If you think you can add some value or have a great suggestion, Alex and I have a list of people that we know we want to interview, but we really want to know who you guys want to hear from. If you know of a really great community, doesn't matter where they are, US, to interview, we probably, well, actually, Alex, you can speak a lot of languages, but it might be easier if we stick to English, but please let us know, because this is, this series is about what you guys want to know. And if there's somebody who's built an absolutely fantastic Facebook community that you just get so much out of, and you want to know more about how they built it, then, we're happy to approach them and see if they want to come on and have a chat and share that information.
Yeah, we're also realizing that a lot of the people in our Facebook group, hi to you guys that are watching from there, are asking questions not necessarily community related, but also marketing related. So, how do we use marketing strategies to grow our communities? So me, more than anything, I'd really be keen to find people that we can interview that have a community but have specifically used like really good marketing strategies. We've got a few business related people that I'm looking at interviewing that are like heads of community of much larger brands, but we're also looking to talk to that kind of organic, naturally grown community that's very kind of niche as well. So we're looking to kind of interview people in very different levels of community building, just so that we can see, people might have different, their community might be in a very different place to someone else. And
Yeah.
also there's a cultural thing, when people are based in different countries, communities, right, if there's anything we learn from LinkedIn Local is that, cultural norms and all that sort of stuff are things that we might not think of when we're scaling globally. So it doesn't have to be someone specifically based where Anna and I are, which is London and Coffs Harbour.
Yeah, well, we can cover a few time zones, and also it's really great to get some perspective from the not-for-profit sector, to get those that are actually in a very business environment, to hear from people who've monetized their community. That's one of the questions that we're getting asked in the community connectors. So definitely one that we'll be exploring in the live interview. So people that have actually created communities and then monetized it. Content has been another really big question. So how to create really engaging content. And that's why one of the reasons I wanted to start with the values. So communicating those values through content, but also ways in which people can create content that attracts people to their communities. How to build community workflows, which was on the newsletter today. And I'll be sharing that in the group next week as well.
Great.
So lots of fun stuff to come.
So guys, a few of you are asking me about the newsletter. I've put it in the chat of the LinkedIn Live. I'll just put it in there now again. If you
want, sorry,
go for it.
I was going to say, if you want past ones, they're actually on the Local X Facebook page. And in fact, the first one is on the LinkedIn Local X page. I just need to manually repost. I only sent it out a couple of hours ago. They go out on Fridays. And the past two newsletters are on the Local X Facebook page. You can access the MailChimp link through those. So you can go and read those there. And you can also subscribe through that link as well.
Cool. There are questions around engagement initiatives on a Facebook group. I mean, I guess we could share how it's been going for us, I think, Anna.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody who's spent time in a group that turns into a pitch fest knows that they either leave or stop looking at it. So, and we're all a member of those groups. So one of the really key things about engagement was creating a safe space, but also keeping it pitch free. So we and I've helped a number of groups do this in the past, is bring in, so we have one pitch post a week, whereby tell us Tuesday, you tell us anything you want on Tuesday, and that thread, people just come in and share whatever it is that they want. So if they've got upcoming events, things like that. So creating posts about specific topics. So you could have one per day. You could have a Mindful Monday post, and I've said Friday wins. We have a Friday finish post in our group, and those just allow people to just share in the comments, just really fun stuff. We encourage questions at any time so that people can get feedback and help to stuff. And it's those questions that are usually come out. Probably a few other people in the group have been a bit scared to ask. So it's always really nice to encourage questions, but not pitching. So that's one of the key things to keeping a group engaged. It is great to have a pitch idea somewhere because we all need help and we all want support, particularly in our case, perhaps with events or growing community lists and things like that. But just keeping those out of the conversation for part of the for most of the week and without those threads is really good. For us in particular, one thing that we have done, and one reason we've designed the group the way it has, is we have a question when people join the group, what's the burning question that you'd like an answer to? And that has really helped us drive the newsletter. It's going to help us continue to drive those live interviews. We understand what our audience is actually looking for because we're asking them. So if you've built a community, ask people what they want, because in most cases, when you build a community, it's not about what you want to get out of it. It's about what your audience want to get out of it. And if you can find that and meet that, then that's where you get an engaged community.
Yeah. It's also allowed us to understand what resources we need to create in order to help them. So again, like going back to what Anna's saying, is like really understand your audience. And I definitely agree. We've like picked up, because we've got about 300 members now. I reckon like a good half of that, if not more, answered those questions. So we've got a really good idea. And that's something that we will, I wrote that in the newsletter that went out this morning, is that because our our marketing piece of the newsletter, I wrote about why we decided to start a newsletter and what we intend on doing with it. And I wrote at the end, we're planning to ask you in a few weeks' time, is this of value? Is there anything you want us to curate for you? Because it's really important to keep in touch with your audience on a regular basis and see if you're going in the right direction, if you're answering the challenges that they have and providing some of the solutions, or pointing them at least in the right direction of where they need to go in order to find that solution. So I'm just checking some new comments in. What is the common theme around which you guys want to build this community, and how do we engage more and add value? That's coming from directly from the community. Thanks for a great question, Arnab.
Sorry, I thought you were.
Go.
Look, I mean, our big thing is really support for one another, and so answering other people's questions, helping out when you can. You might not know, asking questions yourself. But I mean, ultimately, the big driver for me is to help people understand community better, to understand connection better. And that's not just from the members, that's from my perspective as well. I'm there just as much to learn as everybody else. And it's about that support, but also it's deep diving into topics that help us create better connection, and how we can support people, in our own communities better, either reach more people, enrich the experience somehow. So look, questions, as a lot of topics we've mentioned about, questions about marketing, questions about, and if Alex and I don't have the answer, because we will never say we have the answer to everything else. We've got some pretty amazing people in that group, by the way, so lean on them for support, because, they're at different life cycles of their community. Some people are just starting, some people are years in and are trying to re-engage. It's all about support for one another, and just asking the questions around connection, around marketing, around, I had some great questions about software this week, and about, setup for doing live interviews and stuff like that, because a lot of people are doing that, particularly in the online space at the moment. So anything that that somehow relates to your community, there's no bad question. I think we'd probably like to keep politics out of it, but apart from that, we'll anything that's relevant to your community needs, and also helping to support you as a community leader.
So I've got the next question, which I'm happy to answer. It's from Asta, who's tuning in from the LinkedIn Local Facebook page. How can we build a dependable community which can mentor or guide in a time of crisis? And I think that, now with everything that's going on, I've seen, and I think we've all seen, the amount of communities that have sprung out, some that for the first time they are running communities, very much with the ethos of helping people through this crisis. And I think that, for me, that I did before this live series I'm doing with Anna for the Local X lives, I was doing Authentic Alex live, and I'd put a community together specifically for that live series. I think it's about understanding how you can help people. And once you start to understand how you can help people, it's about bringing other people in that can help achieve that mission, or vision, if, for example, it is to help people through a crisis. Because if there's anything that, again, we've learned about community, is that we wouldn't have built this global movement if it hadn't have been for other people coming in to help us do it. Right? So
Yeah,
community
we had a
isn't,
lot of, sorry.
yeah, go for it, Anna.
No, you finish, you're fine.
Yeah, so community isn't just about it's not about it was never about Anna. It was never about Anna and the three other people that helped her start it. It was really all about the hosts and the people that came to continue spreading that community. And we had a very clear idea of what we were trying to achieve, like what that vision was. So I would say that, we met a need, I think, from a lot of people of we can't find a community that feels right for us. There was a very much a sense of disconnection around, technology and, real life, especially on LinkedIn. And I think that providing that space for people to come authentically, leave the mask at the door, drop the titles and the business card, again, we were answering to another need. And so people were really interested in connection, and people were really interested in valuable and deep connection. And I think that when you have if you have your vision that meets a need, that's when you have a community that people depend on, because they know that that's a place that they feel like they belong, and we saw that a lot from the research we did. Even with LinkedIn Local, we used to send out questionnaires to our host and to our members to find out why they were showing up to our events, what was so interesting to them, and that's how we learn about what it is that they need and what it is that we could provide.
And I'd add to that, a lot of people right now need leadership, but they're also willing to help with a bit of leadership. So if you asked to have a group right now that is an offline group and you're looking to engage them online, I know something that I started with Claire Babbage on LinkedIn. This was not related to any of this, but we started a little Courage Circles group, which is one call, same time every week, and a few others have popped up as well, which is just jump on a call for an hour, hard stop at an hour, check in, how are you? If you've got an offline group, you can create those smaller groups that meet online a few times a week. People can join if they can. If one week they can, that's fine. If they can't, but little things like that and little initiatives I know and I'm reading a lot about is just those. You might have 100-person event that meets every month. Now you can't do that right now, but you can message them and connect with them in some way and say, look, we're thinking about setting up these. These online, these smaller online groups of 10 or something. Would you like to be involved? In which case, here's 3 options. Pick which time suits you best, and we'll connect you with those people and just create. And you don't need to host all those calls. There'll be other people within your group who'll say, yes, I'll host one. Yes, I'll host one. They just need a little bit of leadership to step up to that right now. So I'd encourage you to think about, look at what other people are doing, join the group, ask that question. What's everybody doing to connect with what's at the moment was always an offline community? How are you connecting with them online right now? Like, brilliant question. Let's do that in the newsletter next week, Alex.
Sounds good. But I would definitely emphasize what Anna was saying, is that like LinkedIn Local never set out to be a movement, to be as big as it did. It set out with one small idea. So small initiatives. And, when Anna and I were talking about what are we going to do next, like how are we going to reconnect with community, we were like, we need to stop thinking like we're going to build the next LinkedIn Local. And we need to start thinking about how do we start with something really small again, that feels intimate, that feels like we've got a small community with really like-minded people. And from then on, let it organically grow. I think that when you think about such a massive vision or goal and, scaling and all of that sort of stuff, you kind of lose your way a little. So it's really about kind of starting with that small piece and basically growing from there.
I was asked the question recently, would you grow LinkedIn Local at the same rate you did again? And the answer is absolutely no way. It is unsustainable, and it just doesn't. You can't. We didn't have the resources nor the time and energy to support the people that needed it. We did a lot, but we couldn't capture everything because the growth just wasn't sustainable. So start small, impact 5 people, impact 10, and that will grow. And that's how you build sustainable growth, is probably by not growing too fast. Because as I say, we experienced it the other way.
Yeah. The other thing is co-facilitation. Anna and I are doing this together, and I can definitely say that it is a lot easier to build a community with someone else than it is to do it on your own. And that experience we had with LinkedIn Local, we're having with this Community Connectors Facebook group, from seeing other communities as well. I think it's just really rich when there's more than one person involved, because you get another person's knowledge, skills, network, ideas, support. And I think that, when we looked at some of the most successful LinkedIn Local communities around the world, the ones that succeeded the most usually had a co-facilitator or more than one co-facilitator. So it might have been a team of 3, 4, 5. So definitely think that, you don't have to do it all on your own. And the whole point of community is to, come together and help and support. So that's, I think for us, that's really worked, and we've seen it evidently in our experiences. So there's a question
Absolutely.
more around technicalities, which I could probably jump into. So there was a question around sort of setting up tech-wise for running community virtual events. And I know that there were some questions in our Facebook group from Amanda earlier in the week around tech. So people are asking me, like, the mic that I use. Right now I'm using a Blue Yeti Pro. To live stream, I use Ecamm. And we also use Restream, which is the one that's basically allowing us to stream to LinkedIn, my profile. It's allowing us to stream to our Facebook group, and it's also allowing us to restream to LinkedIn Local's Facebook page. So for us, it's really important because we've got audiences a little bit everywhere. We might change where we broadcast going forward with the interviews of the guests, but that's what we use. In terms of the graphics, so you'll see a lot of the branding within the community and also in the lives. I got that done with Fiverr, and equally our newsletter templates, all of that was designed by a graphic designer on Fiverr. I think for us, it was important to kind of have a brand, like a strong brand, which, we've had for quite a while, but we've only just started expanding on for the sake of the community. And I think there's no need to have one to get started, but with time, I think, again, with LinkedIn Local, obviously we have the LinkedIn brand, but having that branding consistency worked quite well.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't have to go to that length. I mean, my LinkedIn Local mailing list that I have for my local group here in Coffs Harbour, I've never used a template on it. I just literally, drop and paste the logo and some text in there and a link to a button for the next event. So you can do it really. There's a lot of free resources out there. There's a lot of groups that you can set up without needing to actually spend any money. MailChimp, you can get 2,000 subscribers for nothing. So, and these are the kind of things that we're going to be looking at. And I think I think software is going to be probably the really big question, I think, for our community, is how people, what tools are people doing? So that would actually probably be a good survey at some point, Alex.
Yeah, definitely. And, there's things that we're still trialing and seeing if this works, if that's the right piece of software for us to do stuff, or if that's the right thing, design wise for us to do stuff. So as we're learning, I think this is very much, when someone asks the question of Facebook community, Anna and I are definitely not Facebook community experts by any means, but we're sort of figuring it out as we go along. We're learning from other people that run great Facebook communities that we really like to be a part of. So we're being influenced
and we'll interview them,
and we will be interviewing them. So yeah, we're sort of learning as we go along how we're building this new community to a certain extent, and documenting that process and sharing it within the group and on our newsletter. But we're also, the great thing about LinkedIn Local, it was very much trial by error. Like we were seeing what worked, what didn't work, and learning, so then we could teach other people, okay, this is what worked with our LinkedIn Local, this is what didn't work with our LinkedIn Local. And I guess, you know, we're doing this all over again, from scratch, with a slightly obviously different vision for our new community.
Yeah, absolutely. We're embarking on what will, I think, be quite a long and fun journey, and we're just taking you guys along for the ride with us. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah. I'm just checking if we've got any last questions.
Whilst you're going through the questions, I should shout out, for those, there is a book coming out, which I'm not here to talk about. Look out in my newsfeed next week for news on that. But I'm conscious that we've been talking a lot about LinkedIn Local, and we had some absolutely fantastic mentors and helpers. So a massive shout out to those people. Some of them are in the community, some of them not as mentors, they're literally just there as members. And, you know, I'm forever in debt to the hosts, and in particular the mentors, who really gave a lot of time and effort to really help us build that community. And you know, we all learned a lot from each other, I think, and that was the best way to do it. And here we are again, learning and sharing.
Yeah. So there's no other questions on any other platforms. So if you've got any questions for us, do let us know. I realized that on the overlay down below, just here, it says community connectors. It's actually facebook.com/groups/localx community. And we'll end up changing that name. But I have put the link in the comments on the LinkedIn. I will go to LinkedIn Local Facebook page and our group. Well, actually not our group, because they're already in there. But do join us. If you feel like you know anyone that might be interested in joining our group, then feel free to share it with them. If you're interested in our newsletter, again, I've put the link in there so that you can have lots of community related nuggets. Is there anything else that you want to share, Anna, before we wrap up?
No, thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for those in our Facebook community that have already started that journey with us. It's only been 3 weeks, just over 3 weeks, with 300 of you already, and already a few hundred on the newsletter. So thanks for being a part of the start of this new journey for us. And we look forward to helping, supporting, and working with you guys, some all over again, and for others for the first time. So thanks for that. Thanks for all the support, and lots of love from us.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.